Welcome back to a special interview with CPM politburo member and Rajya Sabha MP Sitaram Yechury. Mr. Yechury, let's come to Kerala. Even after 5 years in power, you lost by just 3 seats. You came perilously close but didn't do it. What went wrong?
Well, you see, the fact that we got this close itself is quite an achievement. It's not happened in Kerala.
Yeah, but it's not close enough.
Yeah,
so
but it's
why
not
didn't
happened.
you win? Why didn't you win?
Last 4 decades, you always had a change of guard. Kerala. I mean, but why we didn't win? There are various factors. We'll have to go into it. I mean, why in many of our strongholds we didn't win the way we thought we should win. But the fact is, it's too narrow a margin. I mean, it's less than less
Maybe
than 1%.
The point is you lost. You see, once again, you're trying to minimize it. You only lost by narrow margin. You're saying you're not looking at the fact you lost.
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, I know I'm not. We are not in government there.
Does the problem lie in Delhi's handling of Achyutanandan? Clearly, it emerges the most popular man in the left in Kerala, and yet he was admonished frequently in public when he was Chief Minister. He was suspended from the politburo. He almost didn't become a candidate. After he became a candidate, when his pictures appeared on posters, that seemed to create a problem. Did you mishandle the most popular man in the state?
I don't know. Finally, when the first time the list was put out in Kerala as to who will contest, that contained Mr. Achyutanandan's name.
Finally?
No, the first time at all. When the only list that was put out in Kerala, that had...
What about all those internal state confabulations that became front page?
All that was in the media. I mean, that was going on, which is most unfortunate. I mean, which shouldn't have happened. I mean, but that did create...
Was that a mistake?
Yes, that definitely was. That created a lot of confusion. But finally, when the list was announced and Achyutanandan's name was there in that list, I mean, there was no problem.
Who's responsible for the confusion that was created about his candidature? The state party? Or was it some form of manipulation by people in Delhi as well?
No, I wouldn't say there's any manipulation, and I don't think there was any confusion created. A lot of it, of course, is a very active contribution by a very active media. I mean, that also played into that, which is their right. I'm not complaining about it. But the fact remains that when finally the list was announced, his name was there. So whatever happens internally within the party, I mean, that is an inner party.
Is the party in Kerala between Achyutanandan and Pinarayi Vijayan deeply divided, and is that one reason why you lost?
No, it was, and that is something which we publicly also expressed our concern, and we're tackling it, and now I think the situation is much better.
But not good enough.
No, but not good enough. Yeah, but these are matters, Karan, you see, 200 votes. If we had more 200 votes more in crucial places, we would have won those 3 seats.
Absolutely, but the point is you lost. You lost. You keep wanting to evade the fact that you lost. You keep talking about the small margin.
No, I'm not evading we have lost. I mean, obviously we have lost. I mean, that, and you are aware that I am on record to state that both in Bengal and Kerala, the number of MLAs that the CPIM has today is the lowest in its history.
In your entire history?
I mean, I've said that.
That's the point I want to take further. Never in its entire history as the CPM, either at the centre or in Bengal and Kerala, performed so poorly. In the last 6 years, you've gone from one of your best performances ever, certainly at the central level in 2004, to your worst performance ever at the central level in Bengal and Kerala. Shouldn't someone own up, accept moral responsibility and step aside?
Well, it's not a question of moral responsibility. The question is of owning up the responsibility for what went wrong and how this needs to be corrected. Now, that is an exercise that we are all undertaking, and that we are in the midst of that exercise, and we are having our Central Committee meeting shortly. I mean, we will go into all these details.
If I understood that answer correctly, and it's a critical answer, you are accepting that there is a need for someone, a singular person or maybe more, to own up to responsibility.
No, I am expecting that this owning up the responsibility has to be collectively done by the leadership. And they will have to examine and introspect as to saying where what went wrong and correct it.
Let me put this to you. If the leadership that is responsible for bringing the party to its worst performance continues, can that same leadership actually carry out the exercise of discovering what went wrong?
Well, that is what our Central Committee will have to decide, and that's what the Central Committee will decide, and that is what the exercise, as I told you, that we are in the midst of it. We are undertaken that.
So the Central Committee, when it meets, will decide whether the present leadership is the right leadership to investigate and discover what went wrong, or whether the present leadership needs to move aside so that new people can be brought in to discover what went wrong?
No, the first thing what the Central Committee will do is actually to begin the process of introspection to discover what went wrong with the same leadership, with the existing one. As a consequence of that exercise, what happens is a different thing I mean nobody can say now, but the Central Committee will undertake this exercise with this leadership at the moment.
So it's quite possible that as a consequence of the exercise of investigating what went wrong, the Central Committee may decide that this leadership needs to step aside.
I cannot say anything now. I mean, nobody can say anything now. I mean, it all depends on how this introspection and this self-critical assessment takes place collectively.
Absolutely. In other words, you're saying it is possible that at some point the present leadership may be asked by the Central Committee.
No. Don't put those words into my mouth. What I'm saying is this exercise is underway, and let us see where it reaches.
How long will it take the Central Committee to carry out this exercise?
Well, it is beginning in June. It will take up, and by the end of the year, maybe we'll have a party congress which is due, and that will be the place where
the party congress that is already a year late will happen at the end of this year.
And I mean, we've not yet decided on the schedule, but likely end of this year, beginning next year.
And usually it is at the party congress that changes in top leadership happen.
Normally, yes.
And so it is possible that if the Central Committee feels that to take the logical process of investigation of what went wrong and to correct the mistakes, you need a new leadership, that could happen at the party congress at the end of this year.
But all this depends on the Central Committee's deliberations and discussions.
Absolutely. But what is very important is that you have indicated that depending upon the Central Committee's deliberations, there are question marks over the top leadership, and those question marks could grow and lead to the top leadership possibly being asked to step aside, or they could be resolved. Both are possible.
Both possible, and I think when given by our record, they will be resolved.
Well, that is only either hope or you're being suddenly defensive about your colleagues. The most important thing is that you've indicated that it is possible, come the end of this year, that the CPM could see a new leadership.
No, well, I'm not saying that, but the possibilities will exist in any situation, but the question is that this exercise of introspection is on.
One last question. It has often been felt that your Bengal leadership has wanted a change in Delhi.
Well, I mean, if they felt that, they've not told us yet. I don't know yet. I mean, that has not been communicated. But let's see, in this process of introspection, many of these issues.
A very interesting answer. If they've told us, they haven't. If they felt that, they haven't told us yet. You haven't denied it. You've just simply said they haven't communicated.
Well, if I don't know, how can I deny or accept it? I don't know, simple as that.
People usually deny without wanting to admit they know.
You've
gone the other way.
I'm just being honest.
Mr. Yechury, thank you very much for being honest.
Thank you.